That's the answer. Okay.
Oh, ready? Okay. All righty.
Oh.
Okay, well, I'm gonna do a joke was what I'm serious starting. Gazita Zio, you just go in Audrey on Dudgets when it's star. No, not Rooney. They didn't without Gorunga Gary, I guess. Yet he sought to us to tank a Graco done yet in the stars, you Honzage, done a Guego Scott Naganungwe. They didn't without a Guades and Nig and Yat Regero done a Guego or Quadri and Nuka. They didn't without do yet he sought to Gunham there on the headstone, they're going to go rear that the Howaway. Yonki at again, Dam Dawi out on Hetson, Gazat Stasser and the Ganungwe. Dam Dawi out on Hetson and there. Excuse me. Asset Nigat Darage, ne Ganyaga Haga, Radinato, Ranata Hruni, Dano Riskarevage. Dam Dawi out on Hetson, Body Wheel, Gariwa Body Shunsera, Dano Gazat Stasser, Dano. Gayandawana, Rio. Okay, so as you know, every time that we get together, that we have to do the Ahondagari Wadekwa first. This is where we identify the things in creation that have created us and the things that we need to continue to sustain us. And so, as you know, we always begin by giving our thanks to the great spiral of creation. And this is what we see when we look into the nighttime sky. We're not looking into cold, dark, empty, lifeless space the way that non-native science would lead us to believe. We are looking into the vibrant living body of Sky Woman herself. And so we give thanks to her, to Sky Woman, as it is she who has given us spirit. From there, we give our thanks to the beating heart of our Mother Earth, to our grandmother Moon. It's she who regulates the flow of the lifeblood in all things. And so we give thanks to her, as it is she who has given us blood. From there, we give our thanks to our Mother Earth, regardless of what color you are, what language you speak, where you have grown out of our Mother Earth from, or what you imagine divides us. We all come from the same mother, making us all one family, sisters and brothers, regardless of where on our Mother Earth we are from. And so we give thanks to her, to our Mother Earth, that is she who has given us body. From there, we give our thanks to all the women, from the newest born baby girl to the eldest grandmother, as they carry sacred title of life giver into the world and are to be honored and respected as such. We give thanks to them, for in this world they give us purpose and direction. From there, we give our thanks to our ancestors to carry the good mind. First to all the waters and all the medicines and all the shapes and forms they come in. And this is to remind ourselves that we're all made of 100% water, but there is a diversity within just our own bodies. Bones, hard head, hard bone, soft flesh, skin, organs, the complexity of organs. When you think of things like our stomachs, that everybody knows that just the acid that is in our stomachs, it's amazing that it doesn't burn a hole through our stomach, because anywhere else in our body, the acid in our stomach would just burn a hole right through our body. So we can see that all the different shapes and forms that the water comes in is very complex. It is actually, to us, it looks like it actually goes against the laws of physics, because when we think of just the stomach and the acid that is in there, it doesn't make any sense to us. How is it contained in this very thin membrane called the stomach, with an inner lining and an outer lining, where on their own, just the thin membrane, what do they call it? Fascia. Use that word again. Thanks to Celine. We use that word now. But this is something that is real within the body, that holds, it's like a, what do you call them? Like a Ziploc bag, almost like a sandwich bag. You put stuff in there, flesh, and it makes an organ, and it's the bag that contains it. So this is the natural thing is called fascia. It's that very thin lining or coating. If you ever clean a deer, skin a deer, you'll see it. It's in separating every muscle, every organ. So anyways, when we think of this and the acid that is in the stomach, it kind of goes against the laws of physics. It doesn't really make sense to us. So we can see that the diversity of water in all the different shapes and forms. Take something that, just as an example, like a piece of paper, that if you put it over a flame, of course, it's going to catch fire. But put some kind of flame retardant on it, and you can put the paper right in the fire. This is like the natural, just as an example, say that the interior of the stomach, it's like a natural flame retardant, because all the stuff that goes into your belly, especially if you're of the peoples who eat spicy food, this is like lighting a fire right in your own stomach. So just to identify that all the shapes and forms that water comes in is really beyond what most people consider or think about in their average day. You're not going to think about all these different things within your body that is constituted of water, but has such a delicate balance that on its own, you would say it's a paradox. It can't be that way. Just like the acid in a stomach. On its own, you'd say it doesn't make sense. Try taking the material of the outer lining of the stomach and pour acid in there and see what will happen. But amazingly, when you have the outer layer, the membrane in between, and the inner layer, then those things are like it's like the most, you could say, flame retardant, again, because everybody knows that people get ulcers in their stomach as a result of food or stuff that they drink, so we know that it can burn through. So the stomach itself, just to think about it for a minute, is such an amazing paradoxical part of our body, so we ourselves are paradoxical. So we're very lucky. We are very fortunate to be human the way that we are. When you think of the complexity of us, just tear down the human body and look at the spine, the spinal cord, the skull, the brain. Just to look at that is very complex, but that at the core of us, if you look at it on its own, looks like a monster. It looks like it could be an alien. But on top of that core of us, all the stuff, the internal organs, muscles, flesh, everything else, then we look the way that we do. We are so lucky. We must give thanks every day. There is so much to be thankful for. Just the paradox of you being able to open your eyes and to see. There is so much to be grateful for every day, that there is no one on the planet who should not be carrying out Ahonta Gadi Wadekwa every day. There should be something actually that is on your mind every day. What is the thing that you like to do the most? Whatever it is while you're doing it. Just think about how lucky you are, how fortunate you are to be doing the thing that you love the most to do. Maybe it's eating, like we just finished eating. We love eating stuff in our bellies. And somebody said to me, I went, oh, and they said, ha ha, just waiting for you to say, oh, my belly. We're so fortunate to be in such an existence where we could have such interactions with each other, that I can tell what is almost, I could tell, like, sort of like what you're thinking. You can tell what I'm thinking or what I'm going through. This life is so beautiful and so strong, and at the same time so delicate. And when we consider that it all comes from our mother, of course, what is delicate is our mother. And so we must give thanks all the time to our mother to keep our minds in a frame of mind of being humble, of not allowing yourself to get out of hand, in anything. So the way to stay in hand, not out of hand, in anything, is to always keep thinking about your mother and her process of how she brought you into this world, and then to extrapolate all of her workings to our Mother Earth and see how beautiful your mother really is. It is really something beyond, you could say beyond our own collective imagination. Because you see that in the non-native world, like for hundreds of years, they've been trying to create life. They want to be God. They want to create. They want to be their own God. And you see how hard it is. They're getting close. They're making artificial intelligence. They're making robots. But no matter what, it's not going to have our spirit. It will not have our mother spirit. And this is the beauty, the thing that makes it so delicate, is that our flesh could be here like a lump of flesh on the ground. It won't do anything without our spirit in it, without our spirit. And so this is something that everybody should contemplate on a daily basis. You cut your finger while you're cooking dinner. Think about the spirit that you can see flowing out of your finger. Think about the spirit that is contained in you and how it is pumping throughout your entire body all the time, and how that is extrapolated from the functions of our Mother Earth. And then we begin to see ourselves here on our Mother Earth, within our solar cell, within our galactic cell, within the body of Sky Woman, within the great spiral. This is where we find ourselves. We are within her. And so we give thanks for all things within creation. I'll leave it there. I don't know. I don't think I even went over the full way of the opening that I did. But anyways, you know basics of what the opening is, and if anything is left out, then this is for you to put in its proper place. So everybody, just be thankful all the time. Always stay humble. Always be thinking about your mother in relation to anything you're doing, and her connections, how she is an extension of our Mother Earth. And you'll start to see yourself within the beauty of the continuum. And you will start to see yourself over and over and over again, and come to realize that this thing or this illusion of time, that yes, just like a battery in a flashlight, there's a time that your battery lasts, but you replace that battery. And when you do, then time for the flashlight is basically non-existent. It's just that the batteries keep getting replaced. Our bodies need to keep getting replenished. Look at us, we're getting old. We're not in the shape that we were when we were young. We feel, we're sore here, or we got a sore back. Our batteries need to be replenished. And this is the process of creation, how we get recycled through our mother's beautiful processes of creation. So anyways, now we're gonna go direct into the, I think this might be the last part. It's 3 parts, right, so far?
Yeah.
It's a 3-part Kanienkeha class on what would we call that? Statement. Anyways, so we're just gonna get right into it. Okay, now we'll go on. Yeah.
So we stopped last time at this part, that a father must uphold the great law of peace and even sacrifice their own life to preserve the continuum of the life of his children. So now we're starting with this one. A father stands strong with their head firm within the law.
Rodeno.
Nope. Hang on.
How do you pronounce that?
Zista. Sta.
Star. Garda. Garda. Yeah, that's good. Do we need a break there? Gonna Cessna? No.
No, that one.
Rungue, rodenotista garadado, rodenotista garad. Okay, rodenotista garadado.
There's a
T-A-T-O-N.
It's a T instead of an R.
No, R-A-T. R-A-T. R-A-T.
Another one
T-O-N. T-A-T-O-N.
like that.
Ra. And T-A-T-O-N. Garadado. Rungue, rodenotista garadado, conoscesse.
Say that again. Garda.
Rodenotista garadado.
Okay, so I have to
There's a
take
Garda.
an,
There's too many R-A's in there.
like that.
Rungue, rodenotista garadado, conoscesse.
Rungue, rodenotista garadado, conoscesse.
Runque, Rodano, Sista, Garadadu, Ganosesne.
Rungue rodenuncista garadadum ganuncesne.
Ronquero denuncista gradatum ganuncesne.
Rungue rodenunțita garadado ganosesne.
Stephen,
Dunque, ratonocista gardato ganosasne.
Janet,
Runque, rodano, dista, garadado, ganosesne.
runque rodenotista garadado ganuncesne.
There's France too.
No,
Yeah. France is
she's
there.
just coming. She just came in. France,
Oh, I don't know how to pronounce it. Can you repeat?
Rungue, rodenotista garadado, conoscesse.
Rungue rodenuncista garadon ganuncesne.
so the order for today is as usual Longhouse, then Marc, Marie-Claude, Elsa, Edith, then Stephen, Janet, France, and me.
Okay, on the bottom line there where it says within, take out the with. We don't need that. Within or in the longhouse, it's not gonna change anything in Kanienkeha, right?
No, not that. We don't have to break that. Yoda. We don't have to change that. Whatever. Wahetko. You don't have to break that. Wahetko. Ne dosa. You don't have to break that. Exa ugumwa.
That we were breaking it here.
Exa ugumwa. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, ta deo de hunzon. Ta deo. Then. Okay, you're done, and then hunzon should be like this.
On Sohum, shall we have?
Hunzo or Hunzu?
Hunzon.
So it will be like that.
Yeah, ta deo de hunzon. Okay, good. Okay, done.
Wait, hang on. The second word, how do you say that?
Nyoda.
Da ha nyoda. Okay, put one after the ten. Dan ha nyoda. Da ha nyoda. Okay, yeah.
Dano daha nyodo. Den ha nyodo a huevo a hetkone dosa exa oguma. Ya. Dio de hunso.
Okay, ta. Ta deo. Ta deo da hunzo. Is that all right like that?
Yeah, so up to you.
Ta deo da hunzo. Yeah, okay. Dano ta taha nyoda.
Don't ha.
Dano daha.
Yeah.
Daha nyoda aguego wahetka ne dosa exa agua ya ta deo da hunzo.
Anu taha yoda agwego wahedga ne dosa exa oguna ya da teo ta unsuho.
Dano dan ha nyodan agwego wahitkan dosa exahogunha ya da deyodan son.
Danu Nyotan Agwego Waikan Ne Tosaika Exa Oguna Ya Tadeyo Tautsu Dano Danhanyo Dan Agwego Wahetkan Netosa Exa Ogun A Ya Tadeyo Dan Hutsu
Dano te haniota o guego wahetkan ne dosa exa agua ya ta deo ta unso.
Janet, you're
Dano, Dano, Deha Nyota, Aguego, Wahetka, Nedosa, Exa Ogun A, Iada, Deo da, Hunso, Hunso, so I don't know how to say that last word.
Dio de hunso.
Dadeo don Hunso.
Dano daha nyodan agwego wahetken ne dosa exa ugunha ya da teyo den ohunso.
Dano, Dan ha nyoda, agwego, wahetka, netosa, hexa agumpa, ya da deyoda unsoho. Circle.
Amen. Rungue. Okay, I'm looking at the second word, confronts. Tell me confronts in English.
Faces stands up to all of the corruption. Fights, but not in a warring way, but in a stopping to come to his children way.
Okay, that one, where it says man confronts all corruptions and removes all hurdles. It's kind of like a repeat there, right?
Yeah.
So we can just say, and a man confronts and removes all corruptions. That way it's not a double, like a repeat of that same word.
Okay, rungue da ha yoda. Don't ha yoda. Yoda. Dano. Ohahawite. Ohahawite. Wite. Ohahawite. Yeah, wahet.
Aguegodo?
No, wahet. Put an S on it.
Oh,
Wahet. It's not often we use the S to
pluralize,
pluralize.
yeah.
Okay, that's good. Okay,
Maybe down.
Aha, yeah, okay. Runga daha nyoda dano and oha awite and wahet should it's already split anyway. Kind. Runga daha nyoda dano oha awite wahet goes.
Let's correct the English on the next one right away. The next sentence doesn't make sense. That prevent the life giver's children
It's
from
because
being free
you,
of any harm. That's
you
all.
had hurdles on the other one, so
Would you go with the affirmative that
Well,
protects the life givers? Making them feel safe.
removes all corruptions.
prevent,
So we take out prevents. Removes all corruptions so the life giver's children may be free of any harm. You don't need that there. Just put so the life giver's children.
are free, or how do you say?
So the life giver's children. A man confronts and removes all corruptions.
Can be
Wait a
free.
minute, that doesn't sound right. So the life giver's children.
Can be free.
A
Can be
man
free.
confronts and removes all corruptions. So the life giver's children can be free of any harm.
Yeah. You want to revise the rest? Well,
Not only for the nation.
Will you be long house? Are you long house? Only within and through the long house for life.
No, that's okay.
Okay. So we didn't do this one.
Runga daha nyoda dano oha awite wahet goes.
Longwe Dahanyoda Dano Aha. Hey.
I just want to make it bigger.
Okay. Longwe Dahanyoda Dano Aha Wadi.
Oha awite.
Aha Hawite. Aha. Aha Hawite. Okay, in between the N and the H. Aha. Aha Hawite. Okay. Longwe Dahanyoda Dano Aha Hawite Wahetkos.
Uruguay, Aha Nyoda, Dano, Aha Hawite, Wahedgons.
Rungue daha nyodan dano ahahai vite wahetgans.
Rongwe tanga nyota danu enha wite wedgans.
Lungwe de Hanyoda Dano Ahahawite Wahetka.
Rungwe Dahanyota Dano Aha Hawite Wahetkas.
Yungwe, Daha Nyota, Dano Enha Hawite, Wahetka.
Rongwe
Daha nyo dano aweti wahetkan.
Longwe Dahanyota Dano on Hahawite Wahetkan. What does Danhanyota and Wahetkan mean? Because they are coming twice in the last sentence.
Well, he's taking a stand against corruption. It's confronting, he's taking a stand.
But what Danhanyota means?
He's confronting.
Okay, and Wahetkan?
It's like
Corruption.
corruption or ugliness. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So your tweet, Noni.
Removes all corrupt. We're doing the same thing again.
No, just this one now. So the life giver's children can be free of any harm.
Ne, any then space, good, kudun hetzerat kawas, to kudun hetzerat kawas. Ao, dik sa ugon. Ahunda de, ayun. Ayun da de we, ye, neo, hage. Dosa, ahod space, ahodigare ote. Ahodigare ote, ahodigare ote.
Kundum. So that,
The A is by itself and the O. No, right at the beginning.
like that.
Odiksa ogun ayun tadewe yonio dosa stays aho digare wate. Okay. Ne tkudun hetzerat kaus ahodiksa ogun ahum tadewe niohage dosa ahum ahodi gare wate.
Can you say that word? Ayun da de we again?
Ayun tadewe yon niohage.
Okay, I'm having a real hard time hearing. Can you say that again?
Ayun tadewe yon niohage.
Put it dot day.
Okay, there's yon and there's double N.
Where here?
Ayun tadewe yon IEN and then NIO.
Wow.
And shall I break it?
Yeah. Niohage. Ayun tadewe yon niohage.
We yon.
I put it together.
No. We yon yo. Take that one out in between them.
Between the double N?
Yeah. Yon yo. Yen yo.
Yon nio.
Yon. Say it again.
We yon nio.
We yon neo.
That's why the way
Okay.
it's more
All right.
together like this and it's like this. It sounds better. We yarn you.
We yon neo. Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay. See, don't look at the last word.
It's okay.
Agunt garewate. Agunt. AKONT.
Gare wade.
Yeah, good karewa.
Agunt kare wade.
Okay, now I'll read it. Ne chukudun hetzerat kawas ne autiksa ogun ayun da de wenio hage dosa ayun karewa.
Oh, so we go back to Ayun. You said Ayun.
Yeah, but I can't see see. Ayun karewa. There's something missing.
Ayun.
Gotta move everything over there, so you can't see it. Look up there, you can't see it. Okay, now ayun karewa. The A by itself. Space right at the A. Help. Ayut karewa.
Okay. Net kuntun hetzerat gawis. Oditska agua. Ayunda de wayenyo hage. Dosa ayunt kara wate.
Ayut karewa.
You say that again, what?
Ayut karewa. Ayut karewa.
Ayunt kare wate. Kare wate.
I'll read it one more time for whoever's coming next. Net kutun hetzerat kawas. Audiksa ogun. Ayunta de wayan yohage. Dosa ayut karewa.
Netkuntu, netkuntu, etc. Cows, utigza, uguna, ayunta de waya niohake, tosa, ayunt karewate.
Ne tikuntun hetzerat gawas, aho tiksa ogunha, ayunda de wayanyo hage, dosa ayon tikarewa.
Need kundu netzerat kawas. Autsi. Autiksa. Oguna. I'm date one. Neo hake tosa. I'm gare. Nothing.
Ne tikundun hetzerat gawas. Aodiksa ogua. Ayunda de wayanyo hage. Dosa ayunt gare wade.
Ne tukuntun hetserakawas. Ayotiksa ogua. Ayonta te wayanio hage donsa ayont karewate.
Netkundon hetzerat kawas. Diksa ogun ayondade. Yenyo hage. Dosa ayunta. Ayunt gara wade.
Netkundon hetserakawas. O diksa agunha ayondade weyan nio hage dosa ayon gare wate.
What's that noise?
It's something on her mic.
Oh,
Yeah,
it's
it's
her
a
mic?
microphone here. Ne tkun hetzerat gawas. Autiksa ogunha. Ayondade wayan yohage. Dosa ayon karewade. Teo petuni.
Last. Runu shumwe. Runu shumwe. It's the longhouse man. Stands don't hard out ne. Neck.
No.
Don't hard up. Ne. Don't hard up ne.
Oh, it's double like that.
No, don't hard. I don't know. You got T-E-N. What's don't hard up? T-A-N.
Ah, okay.
Don't hard up ne. Okay. Neck. Okay. Ujung Hunzake. Ujung Hunzake. Dano. Bikini stones. No. Shu'un.
Sho'un. So I have an N extra here.
Ronu. Ronu. Yeah, put a H there. R-O-N-A. R-A-R-O-N-O-N. Ronu. Shu'un. Ronu shu'un. Ronu shu. No, take the H out. Shu'un. S-H-O-N. Shu'un.
Oh, like that. Okay.
Ronu shu'un. Daha dane. Daha. And then Wanik. K-W-A-H. K-W-A-H. You're missing H. Wanik. Okay. Leave that. Ujung. O-N. Or wait. Ujung. Right. One split. Ujung. Hunzage. Done. You keep these staha. Once we don't have to break that now. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Renushuwe. Renushuwe. Dahada nekwanek. Ujunza. Ujunza get done. You keep these staha. What's up?
Okay, the second word, the ha, dene,
Dahaden. Dahada ne.
the ha. Okay, put a break between the TA and the NE. The ha dane. The ha dane.
Daha.
The ha dane. Okay, Ronoshu uwe, the ha dane, guahnek, June Hunzage, Dano Yonki Nistaa or Hunza.
Rono sho onwe. Bahata ne. Kwahnek. Untun Hunsage. Danu Yonkin Setanha. Ohunsta.
Pronuncio unwe danhadane guanek onchon hunzage dano yonkinistan o hunza.
Ronunchu. Daha tane. Wanen. Ujung zake. Tano yukinintana. Onsa.
Pronuncio unwe, danhadane, wahnek, ojung hunzage, dano yonkinistama uhunza.
Renushuhunwe. Danahatane. Wanek. Unjun Hunzake. Dano Yukinistonha Ohunsa.
Ronan son onwe. Dehada ni guanek. Untium Hunsage. Dano Yonkin Listaha or
Rono son hongwe. Dana dane. Guatne. Tion. Ontion. Onsage. Dano. Yung sina. Yung inistaha. Aunsa.
What's wrong with her song?
Something.
Is that
Yeah,
her? Or is
Yeah,
that
yeah,
us?
it's
Not
not
us, it's her. It's
There's
her.
something wrong with your microphone or something.
Yeah, either on a glass table or something behind hung on the wall and it vibrates at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
It's
don't-
the computer that does that. It's an old one, sorry.
Try putting it on another
Like,
surface.
We're putting an apron under it or something.
Ono shu unwe don hadane guane onzage dano yonkinistaha onhonsa. Peyo tuat nuni.
You belong house.
Ayezanu Shu'unwe, get Ayezanu, Zanu, Ayeza,
Is with an A.
Ayezanu Shu'un, get
Show.
apostrophe there, take the, instead of O, put an apostrophe.
Where?
Ayezanu Shu'unwe, get.
Yeah.
And what follows it? Are you long? Would you be longhouse?
Are you
It's-
long house?
Okay, Ayezanu Shu'unwe, get. Would you be longhouse? Okay. Zenu Shu'unwe, go.
Sanu.
Shu'un,
Show.
where?
What? Gone.
Yeah.
Right. What the heck?
Oh, yeah.
I don't know. Okay. Only within and through the long house.
Connect.
You want, how about if we make that one easier instead of saying within and through? How about say only through the longhouse? Only in the,
Okay,
only
good.
in the longhouse.
Connect, конусесне. Connect. Конусесне.
Oops.
Не води.
Will life be the way it's supposed to be?
I do an headset.
Okay, let's change that. Life will be the way she's supposed to be.
Na yo tunhage. Na yo tunhage. Chinine. Chinine. Agamha.
Aga.
Agam. AKO. AKO. And aga unha. Aga. Okay. AKA. Aga. Agamha. Sounds like an M. Say? Yeah, agamha. Aga unha. Aga unha. Agamha. Agamha. And now you're oh no, we got it up there. I do an headset and now you're it's Nina Agamha. That's and
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are done. So when we here, these are the questions that
How do you say that word?
would you like to be longhouse?
Oh, yeah.
Ayeza, yes, I A by itself separated. Yes, separate IE, and then Zanu Shun, stay that Unwege,
let's get it, no?
Ayezanu. Okay, then put SHON, Shun. No, separate
No, no.
SHON there. N SHON.
SHON.
Before the apostrophe.
Are we need
Yeah.
an ender?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ayenu Shun Wege. Ayezanu Shun Wege. And then, okay, you want to say that word?
Oh, yeah. Sanu?
Ayezanu Shun.
Oh, yeah, Zanu. Okay, it's za. It's like a za. Okay. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, za.
Shun Wege.
Oh, yeah, Zanu Shu. Ayezanu shu. Ayezanu shu. Wege. Wow. Ayezanu shu. Wege. Ayezanu shu. Wege. I'm done.
Aye seno shu wege.
Aye sanon shonu wege.
Aye sanu suwege.
Ayezanu shu unwege.
Ayesa no sho uwege.
Ayesa no so unwege.
Ayesa no son wage.
Aí já não sou wege. Eu sou muito.
Okay, Zenu Shu'unwe, Zenu, Zen, N-O-N, S-E-N-O-N. Zenu Shu'unwe, Zenu Shu'unwega, Zenu Shu'unwega,
Zenu shu wega.
Zeno shu wege.
Zenon shonu wega.
Senu suwege.
Zenon shu unwega.
Zeno sho uwega.
No so unwega.
No so wage.
Eu não sou wege.
Hey, wait, go back to that. I don't know if I'm imagining this, but I don't know if did I say ungwe or did I say unwe?
I think we all said wege.
I think we all said unwe. We didn't pronounce the K in there. Zenushu ungwega.
Zenu Shu'unwe,
Do we need a cake?
Zenu Shu'unwe. Okay, take the K out.
Ah, okay, yeah.
So we're good. We are repeating the sound only.
I knew something
Take the
was.
K out.
Take the K out.
The K is
Yeah.
out.
No, it's not. I see it right there.
Wege, c'est wege. No
I just took it out, seriously. Look at my screen. I just took it out.
It's right there.
Wow, it's not there.
Frozen? Is
Ah,
it
it's
frozen?
not. Okay.
Oh,
sorry.
it's because I'm out. How come I out? This thing is not working?
It says that you're still in on my side.
I'm not.
Oh, come on, unplugged
No,
here.
you're not.
Unplug me.
Okay,
Okay,
hang on. Gotta go back.
It would not be the same without some technical problems.
Okay.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but I feel compressed. I feel like I don't know, like there's pressure, like going on this.
Yeah, I feel the same. I have almost a headache and I'm really tired. now.
Well, I thought it was my day, but now that everybody's saying
No,
it.
I'm feeling well. I'm feeling the same as you, but I didn't do the same thing yesterday at all.
Me, I'm thinking it's the fish.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because I'm feeling it like in my I'm feeling like right from in my stomach, like I'm compressed.
But we know our salmon
Pressure.
is super heavy, plus the
we're turning
potatoes
into
and
salmon.
everything.
Okay, it's not my belly feels really great, so it's not that would not
But
be
you
the
ate
same.
double portion.
And maybe it's the mix with yesterday.
Okay,
When you use to play with the word consistency, all this all changes when you say a certain thing. Because people only know one way and they think, oh, it's that or nothing, you know. Because we're saying these things in the Shi'unwega.
so unwega is are you?
Yeah,
Can that be used like that? Unwega with other words like
say, are you of the longhouse, the continuous longhouse? So in the Shi'un, you can't be like, you know, I always say, you're Catholic in the morning, you're longhouse, then you're Catholic again. When you say something Shi'unwega, you gotta answer right there that you're not. That's where like a handsome lady. He cannot say it because he isn't, we know.
sort of like the video that I made the other day with that guy, the cop. When I asked him, I says, do you pay income taxes? If he didn't pay income taxes, he would have said right away, no.
Mhm.
He would have said it right away. But the fact that you don't answer right away identifies that you're what the person is asking about, that person isn't that thing, because otherwise they would answer immediately, especially a longhouse person. Hey, what kind are you? You're not gonna wait. You're not gonna hesitate. Are you longhouse? You're not gonna hesitate. When there is very cut and dried questions, like there's only one way to answer it. When a person doesn't answer, then you know that person is corrupt. That person is either lying or misrepresenting, or they're just corrupt. So I know it's not in here, but the fact that he's talking about it in that way, it exposes what we all seen this week. When a person doesn't answer a question right away, when it's the simplest question to answer, you know that person is a liar.
You said that I don't have to answer. You said that on
Yeah.
top of it. It's like,
Yeah.
Janet raised her hand.
Janet?
Yeah, I have a question. What about people who believe in these ways, but they're indigenous, but they don't live, or have access to living in a closer proximity to, the ways of the Longhouse?
Well, this of course is what was that noise? Okay, the corruption of today's world makes it that way, that a person isn't near the longhouse. But as we know that in the past, you cannot not be near a longhouse. Everywhere where the people were living in longhouses, that if it was around the new moon or the full moon, that you could go to a council and have your issues represented, or else you'll know what time of year it is. You can go to a ceremony, you can go to a social. Anybody knows that at the longhouse that these things are happening cyclically. So that means they're happening scheduled according to moons, or scheduled according to things within the garden. So if you're not around that nowadays, well, that's not like, you're gonna get a detention after school for that, It's the circumstances of today make it so that the people are suffering. They're suffering because they no longer have access to the longhouse. Now, in the non-native world, they don't know what that means, but they haven't had access to the longhouse for thousands of years. So for thousands of years, a corruption has been going on where hurdles have been placed in front of their children, and their men do not remove those hurdles for their children. So what we see obviously is a buildup, generation after generation, of mental issues, of mental trauma. You may think a mental trauma is being abused or something like that. A mental trauma is also not having access to truth, not having access to counsel or ceremony. Those things are mental trauma, because whether anybody wants to admit it or not, we, being born of our Mother Earth works in cycles. That means our bodies automatically have cycles within them. Now, of course, cycles of 24-hour day for us sleeping, cycles of a year for us to know that, hey, we got a year older. But there is also cycles within us of what do we do a few times in a day? Cycles of eating, cycles of drinking water, cycles of going to the bathroom. So imagine these cycles being within you, but you know what happens if you don't go to the bathroom when you're supposed to. You get backed up, you can develop stomach problems. You can even develop cancer. It could even go as far as killing you. So when a person doesn't have access to a longhouse, it's the equivalent of that, of like not being able to go to the bathroom, or maybe going to the bathroom too much. It's a matter of not having access to a cyclical energy that our Mother Earth releases on a daily basis, and in some cases, hourly basis. You know, it depends on what an individual's own cycles are. You know, how many times a day you eat, how many times a day you drink, stuff like that. Go to the bathroom, all that stuff. It varies with different people. But if you don't have access to going to the bathroom, and let's say you're scheduled to go twice a day, but you can't go. So tomorrow you're going to have 4 bathroom cycles backed up inside of you. And the more you don't have access to it, the more it's backed up inside of you. Or if it's on the other side of the coin, that it's taking too much out of you, one way or the other, not having access to the longhouse will do that to you. It will either take more away from you or cause a buildup of pressure within you. Of course, it depends on the person. So when you're in a circumstance like this, then the person has to keep the ceremony or the functions of the longhouse going within themselves. This is what myself and my family had to do when we were in Arizona. We still maintained all the ceremonies at the cycles of here. Despite that we were 3,000 miles away, we kept contact here, and the people letting us know, okay, it's the little green corn time, it's the ripe corn, it's the bean. So we kept contact here to know what those cycles were, so that we kept the ceremonies going even though we were 3,000 miles away. That you have to keep it going within yourself. When you leave your place, your home, let's say you're by the water and you go into the water and you have let's say a hose, you know, to breathe. You're not just going to go diving in the water and just dive until you pass out and die. No, you need oxygen, so you have to breathe even though you're away from home. You have to keep yourself up, your own cycles in tune, in rhythm with where your home is, even if you travel around the world. If a person doesn't, they uproot themselves, or they are uprooted, because then now their cycle isn't from here where you are, where you're from. Your cycle is now from somewhere else, wherever you may be. So this is what I learned when I was a kid, when I was 15, when we went to Arizona. You have to keep your own cycles, your own rhythm going. Do not allow anything, anyone, any circumstances to stop you from keeping your cycles up to the regular speed or the regular rhythm that you are in your home. So if you don't have a longhouse that you are rooted in to know what those cycles are, then you got to try to the best of your ability to try to do those ceremonies when it's supposed to. So if you're not connected to a longhouse, when is the little green corn? Okay, there's nobody, you're not connected to a longhouse, so there's nobody to tell you that. So you have to make yourself aware as to when is the time of, did I say the little green corn or the ripe corn? When is the time of the little green corn? So, and so on, all the other ceremonies. So regardless of if you are living in a longhouse, which I'm fortunate enough to do, I can say now that we are probably the last people alive on the planet that are living in a longhouse. Now, to be doing that, anybody can say they're living in the longhouse, but to be in the longhouse, meaning to be living collectively, communally, it's different than what anybody knows. Everybody goes home and everybody goes in their individual house, and you are alone. Now, this is something that people of the Longhouse never experienced. We were never alone. We were with our mothers right until the day they died, if they lived to be 100. We were with our fathers. We were with our families all the time. This is the way life is supposed to be. No one should ever have to ask, what if you are away from the Longhouse? But the fact that you have to ask this question reveals to us, of course, corruption in the world, that the rhythm of Longhouse has been broken. Now, it hasn't been broken by us. It's been broken by the white man, by the non-natives. And so it's different if you break your own rhythm or if somebody else breaks it for you. If somebody else breaks it for you, you're an unwilling victim. And as an unwilling victim, it's just like in court. If you were a victim or you're the perpetrator, well, the perpetrator is guilty. They're the one to receive punishment, but the victim is accommodated. It is helped, assisted. So don't feel bad. Well, I can say this, but try not to feel bad or down or whatever that you're not near a physical Longhouse where there's a group of people who are adhering to that. But remember that you live in the Longhouse. All of us, we all do literally live in the Longhouse. Maybe not the one that we envision in our head where we're all living together in one big long building, but we live in the Longhouse to remember that it's from where the sun rises to where the sun sets. But of course, this isn't going to bring what's the term here? It isn't going to settle you if it's you who's doesn't have access. So the best that I can say on that is just try to keep your own rhythms to what you know is the rhythms of the Longhouse. And if there are rhythms that you're not aware of, then just ask somebody in the Longhouse. It doesn't have to be us. You know somebody in Zusne. Ask them what cycle are we in right now? Did they do the harvest yet? So ask them, when is the harvest? And then you do your harvest, knowing that the harvest contains the 4 sacred ceremonies, that it's a 4-day ceremony. So this is the best that I can tell you, is try to keep yourself still within those rhythms, within those cycles. I don't know if that answers your question.
Yeah, it does to a point. But I'd like to say something in observing myself throughout my life. When I was younger, of course, I was in foster care, so I didn't grow up around the people, but I noticed throughout my life that once I did go up to Akwesasne and I had been around the Longhouse and some of the cycles, I noticed that looking back on my life that somehow I was in sync with all those ceremonies almost every year of my life. And yet I had no contact with the people up until like 1980, 81, where I was about 25 years old when I finally found, the people. But in the last several years of my life, it seems like the closer I got to New York, coming out from the Midwest, I don't feel it anymore. And maybe that's that thing where you talk about being an unwilling victim, and so I'm trying to think that maybe what I should do is get a little drum and then every cycle, maybe try to sing or something just to try to, keep, like you said, keep that connection, because it's really, it is a trauma. It definitely is a trauma. And then when you are exposed in reality to the way it was, and you have the vision to see what it was like in before the boats came here, it just makes it really hard sometimes. So it has been uplifting to be here tonight. And with that, I'll pass and say thank you.
When we think about trauma, again, we think of it one way, like a trauma, like, okay, there's something hit us or some bad experience. We think of trauma as solely that. But everything, we'll talk about a flower. Okay, a flower has a design to it before it's in this world. Just like anything, like the building that any one of you are in right now. Before it was built, there was a blueprint. There's a blueprint that the workers have to follow in order to know where to put the walls, windows, doors, all of that stuff, There's a blueprint. And so to a flower, there is a blueprint also. And it's within the flower. So there's a blueprint, and the flower grows according to that blueprint. Now, a trauma comes along, a lawnmower comes along and cuts down that flower. Okay, so that's the immediate trauma of it being cut. Now there's another trauma that comes along that we cannot see. The first trauma is a physical one. Let's imagine your body cut. The second trauma is your spirit, on the spirit level, where the design is. So you just imagine like inside of a flower that got cut. Okay, just think, there's a whole bunch of workers in there. Hey, no, what just happened? We got cut off. What's going on? Let's look at the blueprint, see what's happening. The blueprint says, hey, the top of the flower, now let's say it's here because it got cut. The blueprint says we're supposed to be way up there. So the spirit of it wants to be there. It wants to be not only where it grows there, it grows this way, that way. It's in the blueprint. So it says we're supposed to be over there, there, but we're limited to here now. That is a spiritual trauma because the spirit wants to be there because the blueprint says go there. So this is something that we don't take into consideration as for people or anything that receives trauma. Now, those traumas, like the way the white man thinks in relation to, say, the Nazi concentration camp residential schools, they made this apology. Oh, we're sorry that residential schools happen. Well, what does that mean? We're sorry for what? What is it that happened? They're saying one thing. We're sorry, what they say, residential schools. Well, what does that mean? Kidnapping, raping, abuse, torture, murder, oppression, every other kind of insanity you can think of, what the white man does to their own children and what they do to other people's children. And so you can see then that, well, they talk about one thing, but the trauma is 100 times just that one thing. This is the stupidity of the non-native world, of that they are unaware because of multi-generational traumas to themselves, of religifying themselves. This is religifying oneself is what you see religious people do. They take whatever that is and they whip themselves. That's the person torturing themselves. That's what religion trains the person to do. Torture yourself. Apply pain in the world, no matter who it's to. And so the trauma is that pain that is received, that is done. And when the spirit can't grow any longer into those areas, that's another trauma. And then there is another trauma that is felt after that, where the person relegates themselves to a less than complete experience, where they have to accept it. Now, think of this. How many of us are actually in a circumstance like that, have experienced a circumstance like that? Some people who get killed experience that. There's very few living people who experience that. But you can ask the collective of the Jewish people as to what that is like, because that is precisely what they experienced at the hands of the Nazis, as to what was happening to them. So they relegate themselves to an existence now, which is a further trauma. You can't see it, and there's really no way to prove that to a world that wants physical proof. Show me proof that you have a spirit. Well, we can say just the fact that we're alive, but in the non-native world, they're never going to believe that they got a spirit, because it cannot be proven scientifically to them. But these things are the way of the natural world. We know that on a tree, you see thousands of leaves. If you take one leaf off, just because there's 999 others, it doesn't mean that that tree is not going to miss that leaf. It doesn't mean that tree is not going to feel the trauma. Yes, the tree will feel that trauma, as will you, as will all the people feel the trauma when not only there is harm done, but when there is no love. When there is no love and love is not growing, that is a trauma to every living thing, because every living thing, in order to grow and evolve, it's love. The food of growth is love. What makes a baby grow? Of course, love. If a mother doesn't love the baby, just leaves the baby, is the baby going to grow? The baby's going to die and shrink, dwindle away. So without love, there is trauma for everything in this world. And so if you don't have access to a longhouse, there is going to be, that it means there is lack of love. And everybody who's no longer sitting in a longhouse, they can think as much as they want that they got love or that they're normal. Never happened. Never happened. There is only one way in the world. I don't care what everybody wants to say in this world. They'll say there's more than one way to skin a cat, right? Yeah, to skin a cat, there may be more than one way. But in this world, to live conducive with creation, there is only one way. And that is the way of the longhouse, because that is the way of creation. There is nothing in the longhouse that is backwards or contrary to creation. It's not permitted. Even the conduct, the behavior of people is not permitted if it is not conducive to creation. Anybody can do anything they want as long as you do not break the law. And that means for us, we have so much law that we have to abide by, that the mind of a Kanienkeha person, especially a man, because we're the ones that the laws apply to. A Kanienkeha man has to have his mind working in a bazillion different areas all at once, all the time, to never be outside of law in relation to that tree or that raspberry bush or that other thing or this thing, that thing, that thing. Imagine we got to keep ourselves perfectly balanced with all things. This means we have to overcome all traumas that are inflicted upon us, all traumas that we inflict upon ourselves. Our minds must be able to filter out all the foreign, whatever is foreign in our body and in our minds. So you yourself have to, keep yourself strong. You have to make yourself strong. This means delve into yourself when you are weak or you're doubting. You should never be like that, because your own strength is the only thing that's going to pull you out of that. And so the moment that you are feeling a little bit of doubt or uncertainty or down, that's the immediately you must pull yourself out of that. I know it's an easy thing to say, but this is what I had to do all my life. If it applies to me, it applies to you, it applies to everybody. Nobody is going to make your life happy except you. We all know, especially if you're a woman in this world, you'll be extremely lucky if you find a man in this world that will and can make you happy. You'll be very fortunate if you ever find that. If not, then your happiness is resting solely on your own inner energy. So keep your inner energy up all the time. I know that you have received a lot of trauma. I know this. I know that I can't say I know how good or bad it is for you, but I do know that you received a lot of trauma. And I do know that no matter how much you're going to look for somebody in this world to remove that trauma, the only person that is ever going to be able to do that is you, nobody else. So don't ever depend on anybody for your happiness, for your anything that you need in life. It's yourself that's going to pull yourself through, especially in these coming times. We talked about this at Elsa's last week, that in the way things are looking, we're all going to be isolated, stuck in our own homes. We won't be able to move. You won't be able to get out and to even go to a longhouse, even if you live near one. So everybody's got to prepare themselves for that. We're in a time of where whatever is going to happen to us, you're most likely going to experience it by yourself, on your own. That's what's going to happen to all of us. So be strong. You know, we talked about that centrifuge as we go through it. We don't want to be weak to the point of where it removes us completely, all of our identity, all of our memory. So stand strong, keep your core together. Only allow the foreign bacteria to be diffused. Yeah, that's the best that I can say to you, Janet.
I'll go.
There's
you.
also Stephen that raised his hand.
Yeah, Stephen.
Yeah, I'll try to keep this pretty short. Don't really want to take too much more time. But just a quick question. So for people who don't have access to like ceremony.
Wait, hang on. Can you hear him?
It's a little bit muffled.
There's something wrong with your microphone or something. Everything you're saying is really muffled.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear it a little better?
No.
What do you
It's
think?
funny because a while ago when you were pronouncing the words, it was super good, but now it just got muffled for a reason.
You know what? Let me check the Bluetooth. That's it.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Does that sound better?
Yep.
Yeah, much better.
Okay. Give me 1 second. Sorry. All right. Let me just turn you up a little bit. All right. So I was just curious, like, for people who don't have access to like ceremony, I know, you know, you were talking about connecting with that energy, that, you know, regenerative energy, that spirit world. I know a lot of like Eastern spiritual practices do like meditation where, you know, I think stilling the mind helps create the, you know, the conditions for, you know, your ability to have a higher awareness and maybe be aware of things that you were speaking of, like the cycles, the little green corn cycle and stuff. So I do have like experience with that. I have quite a few years experience with that, but I was curious, like, just specifically in, the Kanienkeha, is there anything similar to that? Like, for example, similar to a meditative practice? I know Janet actually brought up the drumming and the singing, which, I know that there, quite a few different native cultures that practice that. And I have a friend who's Lakota, where they have specific songs that are designed for like specific to elicit specific things. But of course, they don't really share those. But I was just curious, like, just aside from the ceremonies and stuff, are there any techniques or practices practiced by the Kanienkeha that actually help to connect us more with those cycles and more with that energy to help regenerate the mind, the body, and the spirit?
Yeah, and what that is just imagine if you were a toaster. You would be completely useless unless you were plugged in somewhere. You need to have a power source. Okay, so the toaster, once it's plugged in, then it can work. You, like a toaster, needs that energy. What energy? What energy is it? It's the living energy of all things. And so that living energy is all around us, and it's going to live no matter what, and we're living. The thing about the Kanienkeha is the whole thing is about mastering the human psyche in relation to not just mastering it as far as thinking about it, no, about practical application. And so what the mastering the human psyche is knowing, learning. This is how we contemplate, because if you're contemplating what? Let's say you're contemplating orange juice. Okay, so you're thinking about your connections to orange juice. You're thinking about where it grows, all its connections, how it gets to you. So you think of on that practical level, what is my connections to all of creation? Well, then this is where Gayana comes in. The great law of peace is how we contemplate. A Kanienkeha mind is always in motion. It does not rest. There is no time for rest in creation. If we look at creation, creation is not resting even when it sleeps. Even when she's sleeping, she's not resting. And so this is the way it is for the Kanienkeha. And I'm sure Wayagirda will tell you the same thing with me. I don't care, even though we sleep 3-4 hours a night, we're not sleeping. It's always going. We're always going. This morning, I woke up saying, check the cycle of the moon. Check the how fast the moon spins around our Mother Earth. I woke up thinking this. I was dreaming it. I'm always thinking about Gayana Goa. This is how we contemplate, how we look at, let's say, like the fiber optics within us. We're always looking at it. We're always knowing it 100%, so that if there's ever a break or a breach or wires get crossed, that we know precisely immediately when and where that happens, so we can go and correct it immediately. So everything that I see in all my life with all the elders ahead of me, that I seen elders contemplating through oration. This is something that is, as you know, that is unique in the world with the Kanienkeha. Everybody else can contemplate or do whatever they want. We contemplate through our mind functioning within law, always thinking about law. Yesterday, this was something that I put in one of our posts last night, is that all day yesterday, this is what we did. We talked about law all day. From the time I woke up, little kids, I'm playing with little kids, we're talking about law. With my nieces and nephews, they're children. They don't know of what I'm saying to them is law, but for them, when they hear these things, just like me, when I heard it when I was a kid, it's what made me solid. And anybody can say if they want that, oh, I'm not solid, I don't care. I know my identity. I stand within my identity. Nobody can push me out of my identity. I'm solid within it because of in all my life contemplating my identity through the constant interaction, mind interaction, whether it's in your own mind or whether it's from somebody else keeping you sharp. This is how the Kanienkeha contemplate. It's like you could say, maybe for others, like say people who do martial arts. Well, that's how they contemplate. That's how they focus their energy, their how they make sense of the world. How we make sense of the world is this way. I remember all my life, no matter what the situation was, if there was some kind of problem or something, my mother, father, always make me first deal with it. Well, you figure it out. Figure it out. Use the law. And it's figure outable. And that means we got to think in there. And while we're thinking, what it does, if you could imagine your mind like, I don't know, like a whole network of roads, like you're looking at Google Maps or something, and all these roads. If you're thinking, you're driving down those roads. And while you're thinking, you're clearing those roads out. That's what is supposed to happen in the mind, because you don't think and, oh, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense, and then keep going. Because if it doesn't make sense, then that means the path of deduction that you are on is incorrect, and you won't get to the proper destination. So when you're thinking law, you're actually clearing out your mind. You're cleaning all those roads. You're keeping your mind, your brain fresh, strong, vibrant. This is how the Kanienkeha contemplate. But we also do other things too. I go into the bush and I chop wood. You know, wintertime, I'll go out on the ice all summer long. Everybody sees how I contemplate. I go and I sit by the water and I take in sun all day long. And I just sit there and I think about law all day long. You could come there and see me sitting by the water and you think, oh, look at this lazy bum. He's just laying there all day long. You could think, anybody could think that all they want. But I'll guarantee you, I'm expending more energy than anybody who's working physical labor, because physical labor is the body. When you're working the mind, you're working the main muscle. These muscles in the arms and the body, these are secondary in comparisons to the main muscle of the brain. Anyways, contemplate when you go fishing, right? You're contemplating then. Contemplating when you're walking in the bush looking for medicines. This is some of the ways. I know Wayagero goes for walks every morning in the bush. You know, so that's contemplating. So I don't know. What about you? Do you have other ways of?
Well, for me, I always like it's the Hondagari Wadeko. Once you got the Hondagari Wadeko nailed down, just coming to you all the time, and that's what it is, a Hondagari Wadeko. And then the law is in there. And once you know Hondagari Wadeko, because it's not only half, I could take an hour to say it, but some guys, they really wanted to, could take a half a day and still not finish. There's so much, but that's the fluency of the person. But today, like you'll go do the Hondagari Wadeko when they say, well, we only have 5 minutes. Don't even call me then. It's true, it's, don't call me, but they'll have the priest talk for an hour and a half because nobody wants to hear you. Because you're all their science, it's your two sciences fighting. And it's the original science, us. But I mean, there's a lot of non-native people now trying to save the earth. So you can no longer say it's just native, but they're finally realizing that the Oklahoma was right. And because we're in this boat together, no, if everything goes, well, things, I don't want to look at things as a gloom and doom thing. But because we're cut off from, we can't go to a restaurant, big deal. If I never see one again, I couldn't care less.
What about a pinball joint?
But that's what I'm saying. It's where your priorities lie. You know, I cook all my foods. I actually got into a place today where you needed a passport. But while my son's mother was showing hers, I ran in right away quickly. As soon as the guy put his head down to look at whatever it was, and I was in there and I got a seat. But he didn't come over and ask me if I had I guess he just thought that I was with her, and my son, but I didn't have a passport, and him, he doesn't need one, my boy, because he's too little. So we ate there, and I could see him look, but I think he thought, let it go, let it slide. The guy's got nerves just to walk in. I'll let him. The food I ate is the only thing. What I ate there probably would make me sick. I wasn't in as good health when I came out because it's all garbage. So.
Who did?
Yeah.
Worse.
If you want to try something, I'll suggest this to you. When I was a kid, my mother was doing this. I was watching her do this. She told me to do it, but I never did it. She wrote out the Great Law of Peace by hand. You could do that on typewriter. It's not going to be the same. Write out the Great Law of Peace, the whole thing. Because while you're writing it, you got to think of each word. It's got to flow through your brain, and it's got to go through your body, and you got to make your body, of course, it's written in English, but still, you got to make your body write down this, what you're thinking. And even though, big deal, you're thinking about, say, cheese and crackers. Write that down, cheese and crackers. Is that going to be any resemblance to actual physical cheese and crackers? No, but it is in your mind of what you're doing is that to understand it. So anyways, that's what my mother did. I still got that. She wrote the whole law out by hand in pen. And she's not here to testify to it if that helped her out or not, but she's the one that told me to do that because it helped her. And it kept her mind in law.
Yeah. And I talk Wyatt Garrett's ear off about this, and he's always very helpful with his advice that he gives me. I was just curious, is there a point, because the Ahondagari with Dekwa seems very logical. There doesn't seem to be any kind of irrational thought in there, but I do know that there is a point where you have to kind of bridge the gap between logic and I don't know what you would consider the opposite of that, illogical. You can't really, if you're a scientifically minded person, I think that's a very hard bridge to cross. And I guess by that, I mean like the spirit world, for example, like, the ancestors, the spirit world. If you're, and I think it's a difference between the mind and the heart. So the brain will see things through a very logical structure, but the heart doesn't see things that way. And I think when you have a very scientifically minded person, especially non-natives, because I can only really speak for myself, but most of your schooling, from grade school to university, it's all logic and it's all very, deconstructed thought. And I guess by that, I mean, everything is deconstructed, it's stripped down to, the very essential. And I had a friend of mine who was native, Navajo, and he said at one point, I kept questioning him and he said, he said, You white people are not happy until you break the spirit. He said, with your deconstruction, whatever you want to call it, you deconstruct it until the spirit is broken. And I understand that. And I think it's that constant battle between the mind and the heart. So I guess my question for you would be, that spirit world, for lack of a better word, and I won't go into what my definition of that is, but let's say the spirit world, the energy or the essence of our ancestors. How do you get to that point? How do you get to the point to where you're capable of crossing that bridge intact with both your logical mind and being in connection with that? I don't know if I think there's a really hard thing to verbalize. So that's about the best I can do. So I was just curious what your thoughts are on that.
I'm pretty sure I know what you mean. This is really only after a period of kind of like trial and error. I'll give you an example. We're sitting in a sweat lodge on Salt River in, I forget, it's right out, is it Fort McDowell Reserve? Right outside of Phoenix, our friends anyways, Pima Reserve there. We're sitting in a sweat lodge on the river, and my father says, there's two other men in there with us. My father says, when we come out of here, there's going to be an eagle that's going to come flying down the river. It's going to swoop right down the river, and it's going to swoop up and land on a tree over there. And of course, it's dark in the sweat lodge, but it's daytime. It's bright enough to be able to see who's pointing over there. Okay, so yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, okay. But we get out of the sweat lodge, and sure enough, here comes an eagle, and it swoops right down on a river like that, and it goes and it lands right on, it's the desert, the only tree that's right there on the other side of the river. Okay, so it's stuff like this that you need to have a series of connections to experiences. Now, the experience or the thing on its own is there, but it won't be an experience. It needs to have a reciprocal interaction with you, meaning your mind has to be open to it because it's there. You know, sort of like smells. What the hell was that? You can't see it, but it's there. You know it's there. Okay, so this is how it is with the spirit. I mean, science will doubt and say, well, you know, you can't prove the spirit. Oh yeah, look, you're looking into the spirit. You're listening to the spirit. You're touching the spirit. But you need to have a series of connections, interactions with that world, with that energy, that reality, for it to become known to you as to how you scientifically connect to it. And by scientifically, I mean that once you're connected to it, like if you're a toaster and you're plugged in and you don't believe in wires, well, how are you getting this energy to toast? Well, you got to look at the scientific process and look, well, here's this cable connected into part of me, and it's connected to an energy source. You can't see the energy flowing through it, but you can then use the scientific process to understand how you get the energy from it. So this is basically, it's like a kind of like a blind fate type of thing, where somebody's going to tell you, if you're standing at the edge of a cliff, you're not going to want to walk out there, and somebody's going to say, yes, you can walk out there. Go ahead, there's a walkway. You're not going to want to do it. There's got to be something that compels you to do it. Now, so this is where, when we are young, when we are children, and we are born and raised in this, then there are things that compel us, and those things are called our parents. They compel us to do certain things. Go out there, jump in the river, and learn how to swim. Go out there and feel the energy and learn how to absorb it. And so it's easy to say that right now to you at the age that you're at, but you right now do not have the advantage that we had when we were young and we were in the longhouse and parents were showing us and telling us to do this, leading us. I had an experience of being in a dead feast, and everybody knows that you do not ever, ever go near, touch, pass through the place that is for the honored guests. You don't ever do that. I seen a person do it, and I seen the results immediately. That they immediately fell right to the floor, and they were in a coma for 3 days. And when they came out, they were telling us about the Gari Hogo. That was the late Meggie. She walked through, past her arm like that, through. And just like that, immediately, she fell to the ground, out for 3 days in a coma. Anyways, this is part and parcel, part of the experiences that a person needs to have from the time that they're young to know and understand this thing. Because for anybody else, you're not gonna see it. You're not gonna know it until you jump into it. And once you feel it, once you can touch it, once it's flowing through you, this is gonna be a thing that like you can divert energy. You can take energy from this right here, and quite simply by being connected to this other thing over there, divert the energy. And that's
So
something you cannot see, but it is real. Now, you hearing me say this doesn't make it any more real for you, but there needs to start being then, you need to start having the experiences of the ceremony to be able to know what that reality is. There are some people sitting here who were never in their lives exposed to ceremony. All of a sudden, they're in their 40s, 30s, and hey, ceremony. And then they're getting experiences. Maybe not the complete experiences, but one experience under their belt, and then to witness another thing, then those two things combined gives a different perception of the day-to-day experiences that the person has after that. The ceremony, like it or not, changes everybody's life. And it's for the better. It's improvement of your spirit. The same way that we wash up, it improves us. You know, we don't want our arms sticking to our body. We're gonna need a chisel to get it out of there. You know, we gotta wash up, and we keep ourselves clean and powerful and refreshed. And the experiences that we have then after that can be magical. But before that, nobody wants to come near us because we stink. If we are open, the experiences will be one after another, just magic. And I can say this as a matter of fact. Other people can testify to this, observing this happen to me on a daily basis here, because this happens on a daily basis. In the Longhouse, it's happening all the time. And now the people who have never been exposed to ceremony are starting to see some of these things that we're experiencing here in the Longhouse on a daily basis, and it's starting to have that side effect of that person then benefiting from that. I don't know if this is really addresses in the way that the line of conversation where you want it to go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like kind of playing the devil's advocate. I guess like by that, I mean, like, I totally believe in this because I've had so many confirmatory experiences. Like at first I was just like, okay, this is just coincidental. There's always like a solid, like rational, logical explanation for some of these experiences. And I won't go into detail with them. But I think it's just a lifetime of collective conditioning. You live in a society, you're surrounded by people who think a certain way. And if you were to ever say some of the things that you have experienced that you actually take to be is real, then they'd be like, oh, this guy's nuts. Like there's something seriously wrong with him. And Wyatt Garrett and I were talking about that. Like, it's like, yeah, you're pretty selective in who you talk to about this stuff. You know, otherwise some people be like, oh, there's something wrong with this person. You believe in the spirit world? Like, what's wrong with you? What are you, schizophrenic? And maybe it's just quite the opposite. But you had said something about jumping into it. And it's funny, all of the different parallels between the different spiritual practices all across the world. There was a book I read by a guy named D.T. Suzuki. He was a Zen Buddhist. He kind of brought Buddhism to the West, Japanese guy. And he made the comment about philosophers. He said, they build these beautiful mansions, but they live in a shack next to it. And what he meant was they have all this theoretical, conceptual knowledge, but it's just a concept. For you to actually embody something, you have to jump in with your whole being. And that statement that you had said, jump in, is exactly what this guy said and everybody else that I've ever heard. And I find with myself, the only way that I can actually experience some of these things is you have to just jump in with your whole being, a leap of faith, if you will. So, yeah, so it's definitely helpful. So thank you. Sorry for taking all this time.
Try this. When you feel something, write it down. If you can't talk to somebody about it, I know, I understand. There's a lot of stupid people in this world you can't talk to about reality. So if you feel it, write it down, put it on the side until you have something to affirm that. Say, for instance, like, I don't know if you were present. It was about a year and a half ago. We were talking about that hurricane that stalled over the Grand Bahama Islands. Do you recall that?
Yeah.
Okay. At that time, we had said what was going to happen. Now, if I went on, like the fact of that, we can't talk to people, they're going to think we're crazy, we can't say certain things. If I went on that, I would not have said it. I took a huge risk in stating to the world, because here on Zoom, it's different. I mean, on Facebook Live too, it's different than if I just say this on a side to Wyatt Garrett. What's going to happen? It's just him and I. And when it doesn't come true, it's, oh, well, it looks like it didn't happen. Huh? That's all it is. But if you take the risk of saying this in front of the world and then it doesn't happen, then that looks really bad for you. But what if you felt something was going to happen and you didn't say something? Then what you're going to know is that you're going to know that you were right, but there's no way to affirm it. So what you got to do is slowly but surely, you have to jump into it by being brave enough to kind of like expose your insides, like take what's inside and expose it. This is what I did when I took all the teachings that my mother gave me, my father gave me, and I looked at that hurricane that stalled over the Grand Bahama Islands, and I put my own knowledge on the line, my own self on the line, to risk telling everybody what the spirit was telling me. And what the spirit was telling me, as you know, I said in advance that it was going to cause the St. Lawrence, the mouth of the St. Lawrence, to drain. Sure enough, as we know, that's what happened. The tide went up, it went up, it went up. It did not go back in for 2 cycles like that. That means a constant drain. So what the spirit told me, what I was able to deduce, I was brave enough, strong enough to state it. I know what my identity is, so I know when the spirit talks to me, I state it. I am not going to hold back. I know what it can do. And so, in not being afraid, state it to the world. And then, as you know, it was true. It turned out to be true what I said before it happened. Well, last week, I don't know if any of you remember this. Last Wednesday, I talked about a dream that I had about a train, a steam locomotive crashing. And there was a bunch of people on it, and they were all like running back and forth, frantic, and they were like, they knew it was out of control. and then it crashed. And then I identified what I seen, what this dream meant. And I related to everybody. I said, I think it means something to do with nuclear. Does anybody recall that?
Yes.
Well, sure enough, this week, there's a train wreck about nuclear. Does everybody see it happening on the news? It's a train wreck. It's a worldwide train wreck that involves Britain, the United States, France, China, Japan, all of NATO. It involves all world military powers in this nuclear sub-agreement that France made with the United States, that the United States reneged on, even though it was all signed and all agreed to. So last week, I said this as to what this dream was and what I thought it meant. And so this week, it's here. It's in the world news. So somebody might say, well, it's not a nuclear accident, like kind of what you were implying. Well, when we're talking about dreams, sometimes, it's like shooting at a dartboard with your blindfolds on. You're going to hit something. So with this, sometimes dreams cannot be concise. But if you are connected to that spirit and your connection is strong and you don't let go, then you can put yourself on the line with what you are receiving from that spirit, because guaranteed it's going to be true. It's going to be correct or verifiable one way or another, if not 100% to some degree, it will be. So start acclimatizing yourself to it in this way. Little steps first. This is what I feel today. Write it down. Put it down. And in some instances, it might be best, depending on the degree of the importance, to even mail it to yourself or put it in an envelope and give it to somebody else. And then when this thing happens, you're going to say, ha ha, give me that envelope. Look what I wrote. It was true. The spirit spoke to me. I listened and I reacted to it. And it turns out to be true, because the spirit is something that is a real, scientifically provable thing. We know it on the scale of our Mother Earth, that the spirit flows out of the South Pole, through over the Earth, back in to the North Pole, and through the Earth again. This is, what is it? Electromagnetic field? Okay, let's see, if you were a dead person and you were hooked up to a heart monitor, would there be any electromagnetic field being recorded on the heart monitor? No, there wouldn't. But if you had a heartbeat, there would be, right? Bing, bing, bing. So the electronics record, records the spirit, but they just say it's a heartbeat. Boom, boom. You're able to record it. It's electromagnetic. It's like lightning. It's electricity. It's the energy. And so this, if you're feeling it, it's real. All you got to do is be brave enough and have enough knowledge under your belt is to know how to relate to it, how to communicate with it. What do you mean? What are you telling me? And sometimes you'll have to say that. What are you telling me? Say it out loud. If you think you're at a loss in something that you're receiving, what are you telling me? And I'll guarantee you, you're going to get the answer, because this is precisely what my father told me, and I didn't believe it until I did it. And then I know what he was telling me is true, because I experienced the same thing as what I watched him do. There's going to be an eagle come down and land on that tree over there. I didn't say that, but I said, the mouth of the St. Lawrence is going to drain out. And sure enough, it happened. It's because of the way that I read the spirit, what it spoke to me, what it showed me. So be brave enough to make those connections and hold on to those connections. In the non-native world, everybody is taught to let go. First off, they break your connection, but after that, if you try to grow your hands back and hang on again, you'll cut them off again. But if you're still resilient enough to hang on, you'll get that spirit back. It will flow through you.
Yeah. I'll just tell you a quick story, and again, I'm sorry for taking so much time, but yeah, you're in a culture where it's kind of frowned upon to think outside of that box. That they have a certain conceptual matrix that you need to be in, otherwise you're deemed crazy or unstable. I'm going through a divorce and a custody battle right now. I had my ex-wife actually use footage from the Turo Wampum working group. We learn about language, and we're all about talking about peace in the spirit world. Used it in court to try to create a narrative that I was some kind of a crazy person involved with a cult of crazy people who believes in spirits and all this other stuff. And I, thankfully I had a very good and seasoned lawyer that was competent and was able to, shoot it down almost immediately. But my point is, it's like, well, there you go. I mean, although it didn't stick, it was a threat. And if it were in any other culture that was, I think, more open to the idea of, there being a spirit world, or there being, for lack of a better word, like karma or whatever, who doesn't just believe in things that are black and white, then it wouldn't be that much of a concern. But there's a real world example that I personally experienced in how this particular culture does not, they kind of frown upon that, and it can be used against you. So, but anyway, I'm kind of jumping tangents here. That's not really relevant, but just kind of an interesting side note.
Well, I'll give you an example onto your example. The first time that I seen your wife, it was in a Zoom. Your baby was there, and I knew that she was going to do that to you. I even told other people present that was going to happen, that she was going to do that to you. I seen it. Is that not so? So the first time that I seen her there with you in the Zoom, you had your baby there. She was there for a brief moment. I forget really what the interaction was, but I knew it. I told others here that your wife was going to do that to you. Now, how was I able to know that? How was I able to see that? I seen that spirit within her. These things are real. I mean, I said it back then that this was going to happen. Well, I don't know when you went through this divorce or whatever, but apparently it happened some time now, within the last year, I guess. So
no, it's still actively going on, but it's interesting because my uncle he was chief detective of Philadelphia homicide for like 20 years. Kind of a big deal guy, was on the news often, caught a lot of criminals. And he said he saw it too. He actually said something to his wife, who's my mom's sister, and he was like, "Gonna have problems with this person." And yeah, I said, "Why didn't you tell me?" I wish you would have told me back then. But I'm glad that he didn't. If he didn't tell me, I wouldn't have my son, and my son's like the greatest thing that's ever happened to me. So I'm grateful for it. I'm glad he didn't tell me.
The good things, sometimes we're in a bad situation. Good things come out of it. Maybe we're destined to be in that bad situation because that good thing would not have happened any other way.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe you, the way things were going with your wife, maybe you might be in some other existence right now, you know, maybe maybe things would just be different anyways. Obviously it would be if you were still with your wife, obviously things would be different. But going on what you know now that it's a negative, now in stepping into a negative experience, like we said, that in all things, I don't care if you're in jail. I was in jail for 30 days. It's not the nicest place to be. You got to keep your mind strong. Of course, anybody else, is people who are in jail for a long time, they'll say 30 days, that's nothing. But try being in jail overnight. That's enough. So you got to keep yourself strong. And that is by constantly tapping into the things that are real. And the things that are real are actually backwards to our perception. Physical matter is proven by science to actually not be real, right? So the spirit then, the thing that makes it all happen, is the thing that is real. That's the thing that the person has to tap into through law. It ain't gonna happen any other way. You can get anybody else, all these different techniques or cultures from around the world, fine, they're good for whatever. But you know what? They did not attain the great peace. So whatever they are in their singular aspect, maybe it's good for this or that one single thing, but as a holistic thing, they did not attain the great peace. You know what is something solid to follow, something solid to pattern your life after? A great peace, because that is something real. War, all of that, it's not real. It will destroy a person from the inside out, unless you're on a battlefield and you get a bomb dropped on your head or you get shot. But anybody else, war tears them up from the inside out. It destroys them. They're not humans after that. So the only thing, again, or not the only thing, the best thing I would tell you is if you have a book of Kanienkeha Class, read that over and over. If you can, write it out. You're going to see it's going to become intrinsic to your thinking. Okay, anyways, where are we at now? How much time we got?
It is 9:13. We still have 3 phrases to say, and Janet raised her hand.
Okay, Janet, let's go with you, and then we'll get to those 3 phases and phrases.
Okay. I just want to say a real quick comment, and then I have a real quick question. If there wasn't, if the spirit didn't exist, they wouldn't have created CERN, you know, trying to find the God particle. They'll never admit, you know, they'll never admit that the spirit world is real, you know, but yet they're chasing after the God particle.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing I wanted to ask you is, where can one get a real copy of Kanienkeha Class?
Okay, you can get it off of us. We worked on it for the last, how long? 8 years, something like that. The only part of the process left is just putting it all together now, because over the years of translating it, I think it took, well, 8 years, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Over the years, there was different people who were working the computers and that kind of stuff. And it's kind of here and there, you know, like wampum 1 to 10 is over there, and then another 20 wampums is with somebody else. So we just got to get them. They're all done. It's just a matter of putting it together now. But this will be ready in final book form for which is going to be free for everybody. It's going to be posted on the internet. It will be ready final book form by next summer. Now we can't say precisely when, but Now, once we're out of the harvest this year and we're into the winter time now, this is where we're just gonna be full steam on it to get the final written version. So right now, if you wanted, I would say, go look at anyone that is there on the internet right now, but take it with a grain of salt because there is so much missing out of them and so much in it that's not supposed to be in it. You yourself will be able to see and detect that's male dominance, that's Christianity, you know, and you'll know that doesn't belong there. So just you yourself filter out the stuff for now that you know isn't. And then later on, as you get further, you're going to find out that, hey, I only filtered out 20 sentences. And when you get through it, you're going to see, oh, there's another 20 sentences I can filter out. It's an editing process that you'll be going through.
I have the pictures of your book. If I can send them to her.
The book that we utilized for years since the 60s, we got copies of that book. It was good enough for us until we discovered that it was no longer good enough for us, that it was too full of male dominance, too full of God and male hierarchies, you know. So all of these references have to be taken out. And if a person isn't really sharp in law, then a lot of these terminologies will fly under the radar. You won't catch it and you'll end up absorbing it also. So you got to be careful. Be very critical in any version of the Great Law of Peace that you're going to read, because reading it is what's not supposed to happen. It's oration. It's a living thing. Okay, so.
Okay, so I'm going to go share again. Okay. So we didn't do this one, or did we?
Yeah.
We did it? Okay.
Yes.
So there's then only two.
Wanek kanusesna negwadi.
Negwadi?
Yeah, there's a key missing.
Negwadi or Newadi?
Negwadi. That's where her K wouldn't go in or didn't come. I don't know. Something happened.
And Guanek, the other times you put an H after the A.
Wanek.
And H.
Yeah, Wanek.
My computer that tells me these things. Because I add them. in the
On
dictionary.
that one. Okay.
Wanek kanusesna negwadi.
Kwanek kanusesne Negwadi.
Panek kanusesni negwadi.
Guanek canonsesni neguadi.
Guarenciano sesne guare.
Guahnek ganosesne Negwadi.
Guanek kanosasne negwari.
Konek kanosasne negwadi.
Guanek ganosesne niguani.
Guanek, Canosesne, Neguadi. They put them-
Adun hetsera na yotuhage tinine agama.
Adun Hetsida, Nayadun Hage, Zinine Agampa.
Atun hetsera nayondu hake sinini akaunha. Akaunha.
Adun hetsera na yundun hage zinine agumma.
Adunetsera nayutu age tenine akauna.
Adon Hetsera Nayudon Hage Tsinine Agaun A.
Aton hetsra nayotun hage janine ayakohua.
Adun hetera nayodun hage sinini agaunha. Agaunha.
That's the one. Agam.
Adon sera nayo don age sinine agaunha.
Adun Hetsera, Nayo Dunhage, Zinine Agahunha.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay, we need one final last phrase at the end of that to close that up. And all life will. Okay, Gerda, what's the term here? All life is gonna be. Whatever the term is in Kanienkeha as like the ultimate happiness. All life
Try.
will be
Try.
happy.
Okay, Agwego. Space Adun Hatsara.
Let's
Agwego Adun Hatsara Atsanonia. TSA. NIA. Agwego
Is it Adun Hatsera?
Adun Hetsara. Adun He. Agwego Adun Hetsara Atsanonia.
Agwego adon hetsira atsanonia.
Agwego atun hetsera ad sanonia.
Agwego atun hetsera atsanunya.
Agwego atunetsera sanonia.
Agwego adon hetsera atsanunya.
Fuego aton hetsera at Sanonio.
Agwego adon hetsera atsanonia.
Agwego adunetera atsanunia.
Agwego Adun Hatsera Atsanunya.
Okay,
See-
so
see,
we're
look
gonna
at-
try.
I just caught something there. See, Atsanunya, happiness, it's a dance. Kanunya,
A dance.
yeah, happiness is a dance. You know, when you dance, how happy you are. So Atsanunya is a dance.
Okay, after happy in brackets, dance of life.
See,
Yeah, a word in French.
Dance.
Yeah, in French.
Danse. That's Dene you're writing.
Danse.
Danse.
I'll say that.
don't say the porto.
Oh,
No,
come
no,
on.
no,
Pole dance.
No.
Pole dancing.
No.
If
Yeah,
you're gonna put it
okay.
in- If you're gonna put it in French, you gotta think of the worst of it right away.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes.
Wow. Happy to know that's what you think of us.
It's your language, it's not you.
Yeah, but I dance, but I don't pole dance. Babies dancing? Do you think
Firemen
about pole
do.
dancing for babies?
Fireman pole
No.
dance.
Slide down.
Okay, this is where everybody's gonna have to
I'm muted.
mute their microphones.
We were doing part by part. Huh? We don't have to do the whole thing. We did
You
that
just
every
the
time.
beginning
huh?
of today.
Yeah.
Yeah, just today's
And if
part.
it doesn't work, I can also put it and take the audio of the Zoom, so I have backup.
Okay, so we started in here, room where there.
Okay,
Oh, just a minute,
Rungwe.
just a minute. Okay, go.
Rungwe daha nyodo tano ahawite wahetkons. A man confronts and removes all corruptions. Net kudun hetserat kawas. Audiksa ugun ayuda dewe nyoda unhage dosa ayut karewate. So the life giver's children can be free from any harm. Runungwe. Dida ne konek uju hunza ke tanu yuki nistan hunza. Runu shuunwe. Tahada ne konek ujun hunza ke tanu yuki nistan hunza. The longhouse man stands only for the nation and our Mother Earth. Ayezanu shuunwege. Would you be longhouse? Zenushuunwega, are you longhouse? Connect consistent agwadi only to the longhouse. Adun hetsara na yotoha gitinin agamha. Will the life be the way she's supposed to be? Agwego adun hetsara at sanunya, all life will be happy, the dance of life.
Okay,
Mhm.
all right. Okay, just so that everybody knows, we talked about this, I think, last week, or we mentioned it about the book that we're gonna do. This, as you know, it's part of it's 3 parts, right? It's the last 3 weeks that we've done this.
Yeah.
This is gonna be part of the book. This is when you know all these words, all these phrases, then you're getting the idea of what this kid's book is gonna be about. As you know, it's not just gonna be a kid's book, it's kids, adults, but it's gonna be a whole interactive thing. But it's designed towards children to read with their parents. So this is not the first part, but it's gonna be somewhere in the book anyways, all of this stuff, you know, it's gonna be that kind of teachings to children. So from here on, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna try to utilize phrases that are gonna be, or that can be in the book anyway. So this is gonna be the agenda. All of the words, the phrases that we're gonna learn are things of importance within the Longhouse, within law. And so these are the things that are gonna be within the book. So right now, you're actually living a process. We're living the process of bringing these words to the children of the world through this mechanism that we had identified of this avenue. As you know, it's an avenue that we're taking to apply the medicine to the rest of the world where it's needed. Okay, so now for closing, everybody, how are we gonna do this now? I'm gonna flip a coin. Who closed the last time?
Yeah.
Anybody remember?
Elsa, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so how about if Elsa did it the last time, how about if we go to a guy then?
Stephen or Mark.
Okay, for this today, we'll say, Stephen, because of the stuff that you brought up, the stuff that you mentioned, how about if you carry out the closing today and try to incorporate that for you and for all to be shown the truth, even if we may not like that truth. You okay with doing the closing?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. Kanienkeha Class, Yeti Sota Gunha, Nerdo Nahari Hetstana Gani Burir, Gare Hawa Kwe. Yawa Yunkia Dizu, Junquawis Kazastansara, the Squawis Aton Hetsara, Sasats Donsara, Janine, Dio Faro de Yostarade, Ona Ata. Watekino Waratu Aton Hetsara Wana, Augats the Teagaha, Jakawada, Kusara, Au Sats Donsara. Yawa Yukina Stawa Ohonsa. Yawa de Squawi, Ajirunda Dano Aguegu Anukwasuma. Yawa Yeti Sota Asatanka Grakwa. Gurunqua. Yawa Siduatsia Chakaneka Grakwa, Gurunqua. Yawa Radiwerdas. Yawa Kawerdas Tano Tewanine Karawanus, Jadatatis Kawatsare. Yawa te Yoteri Waranyata Site Watana Quaketsquas. Kazastansara Achirunda. Tano te Yoteri Waranyata Unje. Tano te Yoteri Waranyata Ziyate Watana Quasutos. Yawa te Yoteri Waranyata Otoreke. Yawa o wakwaront, de yoteri warinyata aton hetzerowana. Yawa, yawa waton hetzeri yosua, kurunkwa. There's something that Waigerda taught me that was like something specifically I wanted to say to a specific set of people, but I think this would apply to anyone who follows the Kanienkeha Class. So I'm going to say this. Itse tano so watsere dense wariwa sarako ne wahetka nitse wayaron. Aguego se waton yararos tonate yantare aton hetsara onsa. Saniko rayonta netsi nedoski desteni wahetka janisha dodan. That's it.
Wow.
Can you translate, please?
What was that last part that he said? I caught a few words in there.
It's a person with a bad mind and everything that they kind of put out there that is, warning them that they're gonna have to, it's gonna come right around and come back to get them. So that's why you have to make the big, before you know when you wanna do bad medicine, go right ahead. But what you're wishing on that person that's coming home to roost all the time, not sometimes. Can you handle it? It's, I never heard anybody say that. I know he asked for these words and it's, it's no, there was Cedar for what you said. That's, I never heard that in my whole life, what you just said. I know we discussed it, you learned it, but you perfected it. And it's better to come from someone who is non-native that can say that. It's you can pat yourself on the back. You deserve it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was really something. Anyways, the way that you are speaking, even if you're just reading it off, it doesn't have to be coming out of your memory. Even if you're just reading it off, the way that you're speaking is it's really amazing.
Well, what the Ohanda Gari Wadekwa is right now they got like the 10 commandments, but us it's 18 they got. And it's chronological order. But what is affecting every individual, and no two people are the same, is what you focus on. And just what he did, where he told us about, I didn't want to bring it up. He brought up his divorce from his wife. He went to court. So I know who he was talking to, who it was meant for, and people, like-minded people. Am I wrong, Steve?
No.
It's, that's what Ohanda Gari Wadekwa is what you feel. You can put your own spin. It's not a spin, it's this feeling that went around the room at one time or will come around what time in your life and you heard it. So it's always adding on to life, like life adds on to us or takes away from us. So you have to be strong and like if you're in the green corn ceremony, you would stay there a lot longer at the time of the green corn. You won't say too much about the wata because it's past. But when the wata comes up, then you stay on that and highlight that a lot longer, then move on. So he's very smart. We talked about this, and then he put it into words. He just asked me and I gave him the words and I said, what's he thinking? Stuart was just saying when the spirit calls you start thinking to say something. And somebody will say, oh, it's not on the list. What do you mean it's not? I don't care what's not on the list. Mm-hmm. This is Steve's list. This is what's happening to him at the time. Mm-hmm. And it was brave of him to go right outside the box of the great, the Ohanda Gari Wadekwa. And it must have been said a long time ago in another council, maybe in the 1500s, 1600s, but all these things start to come up now. It's like the dead children at the residential schools, they're starting to come up. And that's not so long ago. And these words, I never heard them. I never heard them. When he asked me if I could write them, I said, sure, go right ahead. you're the one that's gonna have to remember it. And
I didn't know that you've done this together. I don't know. I didn't know that you asked this. So really, everything that I said earlier about what I suggested to you, you already took those steps. You already done it then. So then you're already seeing then, even if it's to whatever degree, if it's only 1% out of 100, you're already seeing the spirit then. In order for you to pull those words out, that sentiment out of your heart, out of your spirit, you're already seeing it. You're already working, connecting with it. See, for me, not every day, but sometimes I'll wake up in the morning and I know right away I have to make this video. I got to do this live video to put out this information, because in my mind, I got to remember, what was this? I didn't have a dream, but there's this in my mind from when I'm sleeping. It's the business, so a lot of times I walk outside to do a video and Wyagerto's right there. He said, hey, I'm just going to make this video. I got to do this. It's the stuff just pushing me, telling me to do it. So all of us are already experiencing that. Some of you already know this to be your own reality, that all of a sudden now you're compelled, almost like there's a fire burning under your rear end, that you almost got to jump to do this thing, or say this, or to go here, or to get this medicine or something. So this is the spirit already working in you. If a person thinks or believes that they don't have a connection to the spirit, well, of course, this is the way that they twist the mind to believe things to be that way. But realistically, I mean, if we were not connected to spirit, you'd be dead. You wouldn't have a heartbeat. Nothing would be functioning within you. You would not be alive. So we all know spirit is a real thing. It's just a matter of relearning how to do something that every time you try to do it, they punch your face, they beat the hell out of you, they beat it out of you to the point of where you don't want to do it anymore. So it's just getting up and doing it again. Here, we're safe. We're in a safe environment where that's not going to happen to you. You're not going to get beaten down. You're not going to be oppressed. You're actually going to be lifted up in these things of spirit, interactions of spirit. Here, you're going to be nurtured in that. You're going to be not having somebody try to belittle you or diminish the realities of what you're experiencing. This, you're that. These stupid people, we don't need in our lives. What we need in our lives is what is conducive to what we know is flowing out of our heart. We know that is real. Anybody who is against that, they're not going to love us. They're not going to like us. They're not going to be our friend. They're not going to be our ally. They're against, they are contrary to what we are all living, what we want to live. We want peace. We want happiness. We know that it's got to start from within us. It's our spirit that we got to calm down. We don't want rough waters. We want calm waters in here. And so the person that we connect to, we don't want them to have rough waters either. It's got to be calm waters. All of us, we got to be calm together. Anybody who's outside of that, who's rough watered, who's rough thinking, you don't need them. You actually need those kind of people out of your life, not around. All of us need them gone.
Just regarding I remember that we had a similar class, but long time ago, really long time ago. And it was something about, I don't know if it was even when you went across the country and that you said that there was a lot of bad medicine being thrown from one place to the other, that people will be like, you know, saying, okay, I do this to you, and then the other one back and everything. So I don't remember exactly the words that we used, but we said that if anything was coming at us, we didn't put it back to where it was coming from, but that we would lift it up to Yunkia Diesel, or maybe you remember the word better, and then so they would put it in its proper place, or bring it back to where it sees fit. So I don't know, I just thought that it was like, you know, it reminded me of that, and in the calming of the waters, because of course, Stephen, you must be going through really rough waters that we cannot even imagine, you know, but not to take it too much and upon you to, you know, that energy of like sending it back, just send it up, and it will take care of itself. I don't know, it rose in me to say it for you. So
Yeah.
I have to say it.
Yeah, no, that's, and I volley between the two. I'm a peaceful man. I would never, ever do anything to anyone. I'll always take that peaceful road. Wasn't always like that when I was, you know, in my early 20s. I was an angry man, but I'm a very happy, content man, very peaceful, and I don't want to hurt anybody. But when you're hurt, I think, you know, sometimes you want to say, well, the bad things that you do, I wash my hands of them, but they will come back to you, you know, if you have any belief in karma. But I do understand what you're saying, Edith. And, you know, at the same time, that exists as well, you know, not wanting even someone who does so much bad to you and tries to destroy your life. You really don't, you know, deep down in your heart, you don't want them to hurt the way you do, even if they're hurting you. So I think ultimately at the end of the day, that's how I feel. Although I don't always feel that way. I'm very angry sometimes, and, you know, but I, you know, ultimately at the end of the day, you know, I think that's the best way to be. Can't say I always think that way, but I agree with you.
Well, Steve, if you, like, after you said she had presented that you had belonged to a cult, and
Yeah.
all that, to debunk practically your sanity. Had you said that to the judge, all in Kanienkeha, and they them asked you for,
Well,
I think
the other fun,
a lot of people would have come up to you and said, would they want to join you? Because that would be something a lawyer or a judge would say if he was a true judge or lawyer.
well, yeah. You know, the other thing was they said that I wanted to, you know, uproot my son and my wife and move to an Indian reservation in Quebec. There was one thing. And, yeah, but you know, I mean, I think people, you know, she used every possible narrative you can think of, and even my appearance. I mean, you know, not necessarily a weak-looking man, but you know, I have tattoos, and you know, so it's just, to me, it's just a very sad, lowly, desperate person who is just not happy. So, but I think what you were saying, Edith, is, yeah, ultimately that's how I feel. I can't say that I always feel that way. You know, the bad things, I'd rather them come back on the person. You know, there's quite often I feel that way, but there are times at the end of the day when the dust is settled, you know, I don't want anybody else to hurt, even if it's somebody hurt me. So, you know, I agree with you.
If ever somebody says, oh, there's somebody doing bad medicine to you, they're putting bad medicine on you, and they're going to say, oh, you need to do this, you need to put this necklace on to ward off this bad medicine, but you also have to do this to send it back to them. This is what I heard, what Edith was referencing when I walked across the country. It was crazy. A so-called medicine man, people were going to see him, and he's telling them that that other person is putting medicine on you. So here, you got to have this trinket to work, to ward off what they're doing. And you have to send this back, because if you keep it, then it's going to stick on you. I know this firsthand because I was in this guy's house when we went out across the country. Anyways, you ever hear that? You know that that person is a witch. That's a witch. They're manipulating the psyche of other people to weaken them, to make them believe that somebody could put witchcraft on you. And if they do, well, you got to put this witchcraft back. You end up having the people fighting against each other, afraid of each other. This is what causes standing armies. And so how we avoid standing armies is by having the mind of the individual straight. And this is where anybody ever does anything to you, if it's this, a push, if it's this, talking behind your back, no matter what it is, you don't do anything. You don't do anything back to the person. You don't wish nothing upon them. But if they did, somebody sent something to you, physical to you, you don't send it back to them. You, if it's something like, say, like on a spiritual level, you just deconstruct it and you diffuse it. You never say, send this back to the person that it came from. Never, ever. We do that, then we are people of war. We're not people of peace who do that. Okay, anyways.
Well, I know that we closed, but now Janet raised her hand.
Go ahead.
Just to add on to what Edith said, and I'll be really quick because it's a short statement. I learned this from an Ojibwe woman many years ago, and she said that we ask, I don't know how, I forgot how you say it in their language, but so we ask them to carry the negativity way across the other side of the star nation, and so that it will never return. And I guess that's kind of like what, like I hear Edith say at the end of the Ahonda Gari Hudeko, when you say, we push the bad away, at a Sawe, the Sawe, at a Sawe. And so I just thought that that was really nice to, you know, visualize the, you know, negativity leaving, you know, across the universe, you know, across the sky nation, you know, never to return. So anyway, now we'll go, everybody.
Okay, all right, well, we already did the closing, right? All right, we'll see everybody later. Hanzija.ca, Dios.
Take care.
You know,